The gallery opening was modest, just a small space in Brooklyn showcasing local artists. I stood in front of my latest painting, a piece that had taken me 3 months to complete. The price tag read $800, a fraction of what my work usually sold for under my other name. Emma, darling. My mother's voice cut through the quiet murmur of the gallery. Another little exhibition. How quaint. I turned to see her impeccable figure approaching, designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Behind her, my younger sister Victoria smirked, phone in hand, probably already composing a painting social media post about her struggling artist sister. Hello, Mother, Victoria. I smoothed down my intentionally worn jeans. I wasn't expecting you. Well, we were in the neighborhood after the board meeting, Victoria said, examining her manicure. Thought we'd check on your career. The way she said career made it sound like a child's make-believe game. If only they knew that across town, under the name E.J. Blackwood, my paintings sold for hundreds of thousands at Christie's and Sotheby's. 15 years ago, when I told my family I wanted to be an artist instead of joining the family investment firm, my father had laughed. Artists starve, he'd said. The Winters family doesn't starve. But I'd made my choice. I moved to a small apartment in Brooklyn, took a job waiting tables, and painted whenever I could. My family saw exactly what they expected to see, a struggling artist living paycheck to paycheck. What they didn't see was Benjamin Morris walking into my restaurant one night, ordering the cheapest wine, and spotting my sketches on the back of order tickets. Benjamin, one of the most respected art dealers in New York, recognized something in my work. This is extraordinary, he'd said, holding up my doodle of a customer. Who trained you? No one, I replied, refilling his water. I just see things differently. That night changed everything. Benjamin became my mentor, my guide into the art world's upper echelons. But he also understood my desire to keep my identity hidden. The art world loves a mystery, he'd said. Let's give them one. And so E.J. Blackwood was born, the reclusive artist whose identity was art's biggest secret. My paintings, large-scale abstracts that captured the chaos and beauty of modern life, sold for millions. Critics called my work revolutionary and genre-defining. Meanwhile, Emma Winters continued to live simply, showing smaller works in local galleries, letting her family believe she was barely getting by. Have you considered what Father suggested? Victoria's voice pulled me back to the present. The firm has an opening in the marketing department, something creative but, stable. I bit back a smile, thinking of the latest Forbes article about E.J. Blackwood's estimated net worth. Unhappy with my art, Victoria. Happy? My mother sighed dramatically. Darling, you can barely afford rent. Your sister just bought her third vacation home, and you're selling paintings for. She squinted at the price tag. $800? Some of us measure success differently, Mother. Victoria snorted. Yes. Well, some of us actually have success to measure. I watched them move through the gallery, making little noises of condescension at each piece. They had no idea that just last week, as E.J. Blackwood, I'd donated $10 million to the Metropolitan Museum of Art's education program. My phone buzzed. A text from Benjamin. The Rothschild collection wants 3 pieces, $12 million for the set. Should I negotiate higher? I typed back quickly. Standard price is fine. Donate the extra to the Children's Art Fund. Emma, Victoria called out. We're having dinner at Les Cirque to discuss the firm's situation. Join us? We'll treat, of course, since she gestured vaguely at my clothes. The firm's situation wasn't news to me. Winters Investment Group was in trouble, had been for months. As one of the largest shareholders in First Manhattan Bank, under E.J. Blackwood's name, of course, I'd seen the desperate loan applications. Thank you, but I have plans. I gestured to my painting. Need to be here for potential buyers. My mother's lips tightened. Of course. Well, keep trying, darling. Perhaps one day. After they left, Benjamin appeared from the back room where he'd been watching the exchange. You enjoy this, don't you? I laughed softly. Enjoy what? Letting them think you're struggling while secretly being one of the most successful artists in the world. It's not about enjoyment, I said, straightening a frame. It's about authenticity. They never believed in my art. If they knew about my success now, they'd only care about the money. Benjamin nodded thoughtfully. Speaking of money, your family's firm is in deep trouble. The bank's rejecting their latest loan application tomorrow. I know. You could help them. One word from E.J. Blackwood. I turned to look at my painting, really look at it. The piece was called Hidden Truths, layers of color revealing deeper patterns the longer you studied them. Then soon enough, I said quietly. The question is, after 15 years of doubting me, mocking my choices, and measuring success only in dollars, do they deserve to know? Benjamin squeezed my shoulder gently. That's not the real question, Emma. The real question is, what kind of truth are you painting with your life? Later that night in my real studio, a converted warehouse in Manhattan, I worked on my latest piece. Music filled the massive space as I lost myself in sweeping strokes of color. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from Victoria about the family dinner I'd missed. Dad's worried sick about the firm. The banks being impossible. We might lose everything. I might have to sell a Hamptons house. I set down my brush, staring at my work in progress. Tomorrow, First Manhattan Bank would officially reject Winters Investment Group's loan application. Tomorrow, my family would realize they were facing bankruptcy. Tomorrow, they would learn that their last hope lay with the mysterious E.J. Blackwood, who owned 30% of the bank's shares. Tomorrow, 15 years of secrets would begin to unravel. I picked up my brush again, adding a new layer to the painting. Sometimes the deepest truths hide in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to emerge from the shadows. The Winters Investment Group's offices occupy 3 floors of a Manhattan high-rise. I hadn't visited in 15 years, but the security guards still recognized me. Miss Winters. He blinked in surprise. They're all in the main conference room, family emergency meeting. I nodded, smoothing down my paint-stained jeans. I could have worn designer clothes, my closet was full of them. But today needed to be authentic. The conference room fell silent as I walked in. My father stood at the head of the table, his usual commanding presence diminished by exhaustion. Victoria sat beside him, mascara smeared from crying. My mother perched rigidly in her chair, knuckles white around her coffee cup. Emma? Father's voice cracked. What are you doing here? I heard about the loan rejection. I set my worn messenger bag on the table. Thought I should be here. Victoria laughed bitterly. Come to watch the ship sink. Finally see the mighty Winters family fall? No, I pulled out my laptop, deliberately old and scratched. I came to help. Help? Mother's voice dripped with disdain. Darling, unless you can magically produce $50 million by tomorrow, there's nothing you can do. I opened my laptop. Actually, there might be. Please, Victoria snapped. You can barely afford your rent. What could you possibly? First Manhattan Bank, I interrupted, rejected your loan application because your assets don't cover the risk. But the bank's largest private shareholder could override that decision. My father straightened. E.J. Blackwood. That reclusive artist who bought into the bank last year, we've been trying to reach them for weeks. No one even knows who they really are. I smiled softly. Actually, Dad, you do. The room went so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. I turned my laptop around, showing them my private banking dashboard. At the top, EJBLACK Holdings. Net worth, $478,932,154. Victoria knocked over her water glass. My mother's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. This is impossible, my father whispered. Is it? I pulled up images of my most famous works, paintings that had sold for millions, that hung in museums and prestigious collections worldwide. Look closely at the signatures. Victoria leaned in, squinting at the distinctive EGB mark. Then her eyes widened, recognizing the same subtle flourishes I'd always added to my sketches since childhood. All this time, my mother breathed. Those little gallery shows, living in Brooklyn, were real, I finished. Just not my whole truth. My father sank into his chair. Why? Why hide this from us? Because 15 years ago, when I said I wanted to be an artist, you laughed. You said artists starve. I met his eyes steadily. I needed to succeed or fail on my own terms, not as a Winters. But you succeeded beyond anything we could have imagined, Victoria said, her voice small. Yes, and every time you mocked my struggling artist's life, every condescending comment about my career, every pitying invitation to dinner, You showed me exactly who you really were. The weight of 15 years of judgments hung heavy in the air. So now what? My father asked quietly. You own enough shares to save us. Will you? I pulled out a folder. The real reason I come. I have terms. Of course, Victoria muttered. Revenge served cold. Not revenge, I corrected. Evolution. First, the firm will establish a major arts foundation, supporting young artists from underprivileged backgrounds. My father nodded slowly. Second, your predatory investment practices end. No more destroying small businesses for profit. The firm will focus on ethical investment and community development. That will cut our profits, Victoria started, but father raised his hand to silence her. And third, he asked. Third, I met each of their eyes in turn. You need to understand that success isn't measured by the size of your bank account or the address of your vacation home. It's measured by the impact you make, the lives you touch, the truth you speak. My mother stood up suddenly, her chair scraping back. For a moment, I thought she was angry. Then I saw the tears in her eyes. All these years, she whispered, we thought we were watching you struggle. But you were watching us instead, weren't you? Seeing who we really were. Yes. And who were we? Victoria asked, her voice trembling. People who valued wealth over authenticity, status over sincerity. I opened my laptop again. But people can change. That's why I'm here. With a few keystrokes, I approved the bank's loan. My father's phone buzzed immediately with the confirmation. The money will be in your account within the hour, I said, standing up. The paperwork for the foundation is already drawn up. Your lawyers can review it. Wait, my father called as I reached the door. Where are you going? Back to my studio. I have a painting to finish. But we have so much to discuss, to apologize for. I turned back one last time. Apologies are like art, Dad. They're worthless unless they're authentic. Take some time. Really think about the past 15 years, about who you want to be going forward. And then, my mother asked softly, then come to my next gallery opening. My real one, at the Metropolitan Museum. Not as the wealthy Winters family, but as people who want to understand why their daughter loves art more than money. That evening in my warehouse studio, I worked on my latest piece, a massive canvas exploring the themes of truth, perception, and revelation. My phone buzzed with messages from my family, but I let them wait. Benjamin stopped by, carrying coffee and a curious expression. How did they take it? About as expected. I stepped back from my painting, shocked, confused, realizing that maybe they never really knew me at all. And how do you feel? I studied my work, layers of color revealing and concealing deeper truths. Like I finally finished a 15-year painting. Now it's their turn to look closer, to see what's really there. And if they don't? I smiled, adding one final brushstroke to the canvas. Then at least I stayed true to my art, both on a canvas and in life. The next morning, a delivery arrived at my studio, my mother's broken coffee cup from the conference room, carefully glued back together. Inside was a note. Some things that break can be rebuilt if we're willing to see the beauty in the cracks. Mom. I placed the cup on my studio shelf, next to my first paintbrush. Sometimes the most valuable masterpieces are the ones that take the longest to create, whether they're painted on canvas or lived in life. And sometimes the truest art is simply being exactly who you are, even when the world expects something different.